Tea Time Keepers, thanks for stopping through the My Reader Minutes. To all that are new here, welcome. To all that have decided to join me on my journey, thank you so much. I know a lot of us are not watching Love and Marriage Huntsville, but I still watch it and still do commentary on it just because there's a couple of things I just want to talk about. Um, Again, those that want to comment can please let's meet in the comments below and let's discuss this episode. I want to say basically the theme of this whole entire episode was that Tisha was running her mouth on someone else's relationship. And by her being the main one, not ever wanting anybody to come after her marriage and her relationship or to say anything about Marceau without any proof positive receipts, um, was the main one, call herself giving Trish intel about Ken. And everybody from the beginning of the episode to the end of the episode was talking about Trish doing that, not Tisha doing that. Oh wow, that's kind of messy. Which gives you the impression that Marceau, even though there's been no one to come forward or any proof. I mean, it's been circumstantial evidence, but not any proof positive things that he's out there doing his thing. Obviously he's doing something. Obviously there's something out there, but it just has not come to fruition as of yet. And do we care? I don't think I do anymore. I at one point was intrigued, like, okay, when is it going to surface? But it hasn't. But based on people's actions in this episode, it makes you kind of like can't ignore it. Like, okay, there's something there. We just don't know what it is. This starts off, I guess last week it ended with Ken talking to Marceau and him telling Marceau that Tisha was the one who went back and told Trish that I was in someone's DM. And Marceau was like, what? I need to get the context of that whole conversation because that ain't us. That's not what we do. And he said he was disturbed by that. He did not like that. He don't want nobody saying nothing about him. So he don't need his wife going saying anything about anybody else. Come on now. Let's do this thing. So, of course, this episode, it picks up. Marceau calls Tisha down because he needs to have a conversation with her about what actually was talked about between her and Trish. And he basically was letting her know, like, I had a talk with Ken, and I'm paraphrasing, okay, because I don't know exactly what they were saying verbatim. And he was like, I had a talk with Ken, and he basically said that you offered up some information about him being in someone's DMs. And she's looking at him like, "Well, I didn't say it like that." But he was actually talking to her like a kid. Like he was like, come on now, we don't do that. No, that's come on. I need you to tighten up. And that's how he was talking to her. I'm thinking to myself, how many is he really talking to her like she's a teenager or something? Like he's giving her some advice, like this is not how you want to move or whatever. And that's what I got out of it. But he basically said, of all people, of all couples, we're the ones that's always telling people, don't say anything about us. Don't come for our marriage. Don't get in our relationship. And you are offering up information to Trish. And she was like, well, I didn't mean it to come off like that. It didn't mean it like that. I was just saying. And I think she explains to Marceau that basically Trisha came over her house. She came over here and basically was letting her know that Kim was accusing her of being out with someone else. And her thing was, well, he can't be, coming at you about what people then told him because somebody came back and told me that he was in your DMs. And Marcel was looking at her like, she said, well, I wasn't saying it like that. Maybe that's how it came across, but that's not how I was saying it. And he was looking at her still like, that's not what we do. And going forward, I feel like, that's not how we should behave or that's not how we should move. And her thing was, well, I was just basically saying that, they have to both cut out the white noise. You can't be worried about what people are saying. And I was basically saying that, if he needs to cut out the white noise around them, she does too. Marceau is funny because he puts a little joke in everything that he does, and I like him. I like Marceau, even though we know he got some crap with him. I like him, but he basically said, it's a shame that he's got people coming at them trying to destroy them, and she's like, Marceau, that is not me. I am not doing that. And he was like looking at her like, oh, so Tisha came back and was like, well, they just needed to get it together and find out what or who is trying to destroy them. And he looks at her and says, ma'am, ma'am. And she said, it is not me, Marcel. I thought it was funny because she did come at her, and you can tell. And I remember the conversation with her and Trisha. You could tell that Trisha felt some way about it, but she didn't say anything. She just, kind of like let it roll off. But she was like, because her thing was, and she says it later on in the episode, like, I have people in my DMs too, but I don't respond. And her whole thing is like, why is he responding to anybody in the DMs, or why is he in somebody else's DMs having a conversation? And it kind of did bother her because evidently they probably had a conversation about being in people's DMs. And with them being on the outs, or maybe being on a break or whatever, maybe he felt like he could, because it was like every break made me feel like it's the end, like they're never going to come back together, even though they do come back in a matter of days. And maybe that's where they go wrong. Maybe they should let it go for about a month. If you all are not back within a month, then you go do whatever. But clearly they get back within days of each other, taking a break, like 3 days. They just need a break from each other, like a weekend or a long weekend. And then they're back together. I don't know. But anyway, that was that. So I thought that was funny. Marceau is a funny guy. So the next scene is Destiny, Nell, and Trisha, and they're meeting over Nell's house for a little fruit charcuterie. There wasn't no cheese on it, so it was a little fruit, wine, or whatever, cheese or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, Destiny talks about her trip to Detroit and how it's life changing now that she has 6 younger siblings. She's like the big sister, and she's like okay with her, her new place in life, and she feels activated as the big sister. And she said, she had gone to Detroit. She said the Scots came along, and Nell said, well, that was good. That was a good support, system. And she was like, yeah. She said, but I don't think they were used to seeing me with a gang of people. And she talked about how that was a good trip, and it was good to know that she was able to gather all 6 of her siblings. She said she met her brother, and she actually enjoyed the visit. She didn't go into depth about, or into details about, her mother or anything like that, but I'm sure that'll come at a later date. But she really enjoyed the fact that she was able to connect with her siblings. And then Destiny brings up the fact that Martell, when she met with Martell, he was the one that kind of let her know that Tisha was saying something about how Ken was in other people's DMs. And so when Destiny says it, Nell says, I'm going to need my drink. Now, remember, there was one episode prior to this that Nell said, Tisha better be quiet about, like whatever she was saying about her husband, because I got some stuff that she don't want me to say. So everybody's got these things that they know about Marceau, but ain't nobody saying nothing. So when Destiny brought that up, Nell said, oh, well, let me get my drink. And right, and they laughed about it. And so I think Destiny asked Trisha how did she feel about that, and Trisha was like, "Well, I don't blame um Tisha for coming to me and saying that." She said because to her defense, I guess she was coming to her defense. She didn't really know what was going on with us. And Destiny said, "Well, aren't y'all back together?" And she said, "Yeah." Because I guess they only took a break for like 3 days or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they were being sarcastic, but it was like a short span of time, and now they're back together. And so she said, "Yeah." She said, "But Tisha didn't know, what we were going through, and now that we're back together," she said, "we're kind of like in a good space." And she said, even to the point where they're talking about having children. What? What? So now looks at her and says, "Have y'all gone to therapy?" And she said, "Yes." She said, "We're doing therapy." And she said, "It's not going to, be our issues are not going to resolve overnight." She said, "Well, y'all can't have no children until you get a divorce." So technically, during this time of filming, Trisha is still married to Marquez. What? I thought their divorce was over. They are like dragging this season out. Like they doing like 3 or 4 episodes and they're going to break 3 or 4. They are dragging season 10 out because I think this is supposed to be the last season, right? So season 10 might last for 2 years. I don't know what they're doing. But anyway, so because I want to say this is old because even with I've seen pictures of Kimmy and um Marceau's Maurice's restaurant, and it's done. So this is how far back this taping goes. It's like it's whoa, it's way back. Anyway, they're like, y'all need to get it together, and y'all can't do anything until y'all get the divorce. And she's like, "Yeah, I know, I know." But why y'all talking about kids? And now all of a sudden, in Trisha's confessional, she's like, "Well, I always thought about having, 4 kids." And she said, "I can see myself, now having 2 extra kids." And so they ask her, they said, "Well, you think that he's just trying to have kids with you just to lock you down?" And she was like, "I don't know. I didn't think about that." She said, "I don't think so." And Destiny basically in her confession says if you're going to have a kid, you have to have love is will bring, a child will bring love into a relationship, but you said you have to have a strong foundation to bring a child into a relationship. And I guess Ken now wants his own kids, where before he's always, taken to other people's children, but he wants his own. And that was only going to be a matter of time. Like he's still young enough to want to have a family of his own, even though he has taken on the father role of other people's children, right? So, again, if she were to have a child by Ken, I guess that will allow him to be back in the house. Right now, he has his own apartment, and I think by what was filed in the divorce papers or separation paper or whatever Trisha has with Marquez, Ken's not allowed to be in the house. At least that's what I remember allegedly hearing. I don't know. Allegedly. But by her, if she has a child, then he has every reason to come in that house because he has a child by her. I don't know what their logic is doing with that, but that to me seems like a bad idea, at least right now. The next scene is Kayla. I think that's Nell's daughter's name. Kayla, Nell, and they go visit Lance at Vibes, where he is going to have I think it's his birthday party. I don't know how old he's turning. I don't know if they even said it, but he's having a birthday party, and the theme is, I guess, casino, because they call him Lucky. I think that's his nickname. And Nell comes in there. She's got on this little hoochie mama shirt, and little heels and jeans, and she's tipping in there. Anyway, Nell comes in there to visit her son, her and Kayla, and they come to discuss the plans for his party. Prior to that, though, I want to say that they say that he needs to calm down. Like, this is his last hurrah. Like, he has small children and he needs to get serious about raising his kids. Like, he can't be out here being a party animal. And his thing is, "Ma's cold in my house." Like, he don't have nobody. You know what I'm saying? So he likes to go out and do his thing. And he's not ready to settle down, obviously, right? And so he likes to go out. Every now and again he needs to do him. And Nell is like, "Look, you need to settle down. You need to rein it in and, focus on kids." And her thing is like, because I guess her and Kayla are tired of babysitting. Because he don't come back when he said he's supposed to come back. I guess it'd be one thing if he went out and said, "All right, I'll be back tomorrow morning," and he'd come back tomorrow morning. But I don't know how long he keeps the kids over there. He knows that they're in good hands. Ain't nothing gonna happen to him. So he takes advantage. Can't do that because you wear out your babysitter and then you come to find out you won't have no babysitter. Hello. But anyway, so they talk about that. And then I want to say Nell brings up the fact that she knows that I don't know how she brings up Trish, but Trish basically said that she got her own invitation from Lance. And he said that Tisha went back and said that Ken, I don't know how they talked about that. I feel like she brought up the fact that that they live separately. And, and when she said something to Trisha about the party, she said she told her that she had her own special invitation from Lance. And so Lance basically said, "Yeah, I know that they are living separately." He said, "But I also know that they are working on getting back together." And and then she said something about Tisha. Again, they're talking about Tisha running back telling Trisha that Ken be in other people's DMs. And Lance was like, "Well, how does Tisha know that Ken is in other people's DMs?" And so that's when Lance took this opportunity to tell his mother and his sister that Trisha was in his DMs. And whatever he had posted, Trisha put it in the comments. He had heart emoji, heart emoji, heart emoji, licky face. And I'm like, "What is licky face?" And so Kayla was like, "That's actually the tasty emoji." And she said, technically, she said, "If I saw that, I would think that, that she was kind of flirting with you." And Nella's like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah." He said, "I don't even know what to do with that." And I think he said, "I like Ken." And he went back and told Ken what Trisha did. And he said, "Oh," well, he said, when he told him, he was like, "All right, I'll get back to you." He said, "But he never got back to me." So he said, "I don't know." He said, "But I did tell Ken about it." So, I, so that was a whole thing. And so basically that was the end of that. So the next scene is them coming together for the party. And they show everybody coming in couple by couple. They show Lance coming in with his girl. I think her name is Kiera or Sierra. It's one of the two. I think it's Kiera. And she comes in. She looks cute in what she has on. And part of where I guess Nell, I don't know if I think this scene was manufactured because I don't know if we even had to even have this conversation because we don't really care. But Lance and his girl was going back and forth, and basically, Kiara saying that he's not taking them seriously. They're not really exclusive. She said she's evidently, I think she's getting mixed messages when they're out together. He basically lets it know that they're together, but I guess because he entertains other people, she's entertaining other men too. So they're not really exclusive. And they were just going back and forth because Kiara wanted to know what it was. She needed him to say what it was. And Nell says, "Well, at the dinner table, you said you were exclusive with her." She said, "If this is what's going on, y'all are not exclusive." And she said, "I don't want you bringing not near another woman around my grandbaby." She said, "Until you decide what you want to do, don't bring nobody." She said, "I don't want nobody else at my house." Right? And Kiara was upset. She said, because we go out. He said, well, tell me what it is about school. He said, we go out together. We spend time with our kids together. She said, we do all of these together. And she said, yeah, but when we're together, it's just with the kids. She said, it's never really me and you. She said, when it's supposed to be our date night, you're out. She said, I wake up and you're been out 6 o'clock in the morning. So evidently they must stay together. And evidently he don't come home or he don't come back or whatever. And her thing is like, what is this? So evidently, he said, we need to have a conversation. But I also remember the conversation that he had at the table. And he did say, at this particular time, me and Sierra, me and Kiara, whatever her name is exclusive because I'm not seeing anybody else. So right now, it's just me and her. As if to say it might change in the future. He never closed the door like, this is the one, I'm locking this one down. He didn't say that. He basically said, for right now, it's just me and her because I ain't seeing nobody else. Like, she's it for right now. That was the key word, for right now. So I didn't take that as him being saying that we're exclusive. Right now, it's just, this is what it is. However, and then I think we've seen lately that he's not with Kiara anymore. He was in a picture, he had a picture with somebody else. So I don't know. He's being a ho-ho. So they go back and forth. And then he basically said, so let's do this. Let's have this conversation. He said, I think me and you need to have a one-on-one. And I guess so they could clarify like where they are, where they stand. So, and I understand that. So, and then like, it's like Marceau is standing in front of him. Martel, Maurice, and Ken are standing behind him. So they're all like surrounding him like, you know, this is crazy. They don't want nobody in their business, but they standing around looking at everybody up. They're so crazy. So they got Ken and Trish going through their stuff, and then they got Lance and Kiara going through their stuff. And the ones that don't want to talk about what's going on in their relationships don't say nothing. Again, this is pivot. This is their pivoting era. Remember, my last video was called Pivot 101. Yeah, this is still the pivoting area. They want to look at other people's relationships, like don't look at us. Then the next scene is Tisha, Marceau, Trisha, and Ken. They're all sitting together, and Tisha's apologizing. Evidently, Marceau put up to apologizing because he's thinking that's not what we do. And so she said, I didn't mean to talk about that comment she said she didn't mean to apply to or bring any type of um messiness. That was her thing. She said, she said, I wasn't trying to be messy or whatever. She was like, this is the perspective that I was getting at. And she said, I didn't mean anything by it. Trisha made it seem like, you were saying that people see her out with so and so and so and so. And I basically said, well, this is what's being said about him, but it wasn't meant to, bring any messiness into your relationship. So she apologizes. Marceau makes her apologize. And so, um, Trisha said they didn't take any hard feelings, I don't think, over it. But Trisha was like, the reason why she felt some way about it, it wasn't because of what Trisha said. It was the fact that a lot of people be in both of their DMs. She said, but she never responds. And she wanted to know why he was responding. And then Marcel said, well, when you put them little thirst trap pictures out there, what do you expect? And then they post a picture of Ken and a picture of Trisha and pretty nice in their pictures. And Marcel said, well, when you put those out there, that's what you're going to get, basically. That's what he's saying, paraphrasing. But basically, you're going to get people in your DMs. And so that was the end of that. The ladies are ragging on Trisha, and it basically comes up that she was in Lance's DMs. I don't know who brings it up. And they're like, what? And Trisha's like, no, that's not how that happened. He posted something and I liked it. And then they said, but yeah, it was heart emoji, heart emoji, heart emoji, licky face. And Kimmy's like, licky face? She said, I gotta see that. What? Licky face? And so when they show it to her, she said, that is a licky face. That is a licky face. Like, what does that mean? She was like, no, I fat fingered it. What? She said, I have fat because the licky face is right under the heart emoji. And I had fat fingered it. You can edit your comments. You can edit your comments, Trisha. You've been caught. Hello. Oh my God. She said, I fat fingered it. Well, even if she fat fingered it, she meant for it to stay. Because once she looked at it, she said, oh, that's appropriate. And again, she could have been on the break and it didn't matter. Like, this is me. I'm doing me. And she was like, no, no, no. And then somebody brought up the fact, she said, well, aren't y'all cousins? And somebody said, oh, they fourth cousins. That don't mean nothing. I mean, they were going back and forth. They were just ragging her. She was trying to defend herself, but it wasn't holding. Like, girl, you got caught in Lance's DMs. But the thing of it is, Lance had already gone back and said something to Kim. So on the men's side, they were talking about the same thing as well. And he basically said, what would y'all do if, somebody's woman DM'd you and you cool with the guy and everybody's looking like, is she talking about? I'm assuming they all thought it was their woman. So then that's when he was like, it's Trisha. And they were like, oh man, oh hell no, oh. And that was before Ken even walked over there because I think Ken went to get some food, but they had already started talking about it before he got there. And then when they said and then this whole Kim was like, so I said, I know where y'all going with this. So what? He said, I don't take this the wrong way. He said, but sometimes Trisha does stuff without thinking. I mean, that's embarrassing, first and foremost. And so, and he said, me and Trisha already talked about it. She said she fat fingered the emoji. And then that's when Marcel said, well, you could unfat finger something. That's what I'm saying. Like, she could have unfat fingered it. I mean, you could have edited it. But I just think Trisha was caught. Point blank period. She was caught. He said she could have unfat fingered it. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, she could have like edit and taken the whole thing off. Like, was that even appropriate? You could have said, you could have just given it a like. It wouldn't have weighed as heavy. But you got 3 hearts and a licky face or a tasty emoji. Just saying, don't look good. It's the optics. It's all about the optics. So, so they laugh about that. And then so they go back to the ladies and they're basically, bringing up the fact that I think they asked Nell like why didn't she reach out to them about um the whole Chris Fletcher, getting about his license being revoked and all that kind of stuff. And Nell basically said, well, to be honest, she said, I'm not really bonded with any one of you except for Destiny. She said, Tisha, me and you got a fucked up relationship. What? And she said, Trisha said that me and Trisha was going to speak, more often, but that really hasn't panned out. And she said, so who was I going to reach out to? She was like, I got that. She said, I was the one that would serve the papers. He wasn't even home. She said, I got that to contend with. She said, I'm taking care of my dad. I got 2 brand new grandchildren that I'm dealing with that. And she said, it's all basically, I'm paraphrasing. She said, it's just all just piling up and she, and it's all on her. And then she just bust out crying to the point where she had to get up and walk away. And so in Kimmy's confessional, she basically said, if you didn't know what overwhelming felt like or looked like, I believe that's what it looked like with that. And then you could see that she's carrying the weight of everything on her. And not to say that Chris doesn't help, because I know he does. She even says that he's on her payroll too at the daycare. So he does help out and does what he can do or whatever. And he should have more time to help out now since he ain't doing real estate. Just saying. So Nell goes into the bathroom and gets herself together. Destiny comes in there behind her saying, we got you, and she's like, I couldn't hold it anymore. She said, my mom never let me, never wanted me to cry. But I couldn't hold it I couldn't hold it in anymore. And she said, just let it out. Her daughter follows her in there. She says, just let it out, Mom. I keep telling you, just let it out. Kimmy comes in there and says, we got you. You know who didn't go in there? Mean ass Tisha. At least we didn't see it. Okay. Anyway, so that's how it goes off. But for the most part, this episode was okay. But again, I feel like they're still pivoting. They're looking into other people's relationships, what they are going through, and they're not honing in on the main characters, the main cast members. We don't know what's going on with them. We get the illusion of something's going on, especially with Marcel and Tisha, but we're not going to know that. So everybody's keeping it hush hush. I guess they're holding it for a rainy day. I guess Kimmy and Maurice, they only showed up for the party. They didn't even have like a spot on this show. I don't even think that they're really in a good place to be on the show. I really don't. I honestly don't. I feel like they're still working on themselves, their relationship as a whole, and they don't want to debut or they don't want to showcase what's really going on in their relationship. We only get like a few segments. We got what the meat and potatoes was of their relationship, but that's it. That's all they're giving us. Like, yeah, we're going through something, but we're going to take care of this ourselves. So that's where we are. Tell me what you think. Let's get down in the comments, talk about it. Everyone be blessed. Happy Easter, everyone. Peace.